Alright, so now that we got that working, we have our starter template over here. We know our CSS files are broke. It's not a big deal, we're going to fix that. But we have the URL to view the template process working. What we need to do is we need to be able to push all this up to a cloud so that we can store it on the cloud and then pull it and work on it later, or our teammates can pull it and work on it from their end and then push their changes up. And we're going to use Github for that. You've probably heard of Github before, it's very popular. So here's the basic process. Do not try to memorize this right now, just try to get an overall idea of how it works. So here's our computer. And what we're essentially going to do is do our programming on our computer. Git's going to track all the changes that we make, and then we're going to add all these changes together by running this command, and it's going to put them on a little staging area in our computer. I'm then going to run the next command, git commit -m, -m being message, so I can type in a little message that's going to be displayed to people who have access to the repository. They're going to be able to see what I pushed up. They're going to be able to see that message to kind of get an idea of what I was doing. I'm going to run this git push origin master, which is then going to take these changes that I've added to my staging area, and it's going to push my entire staging area up to the GitHub cloud. It's going to update the GitHub repository. Okay, and then your teammate is going to come in, an hour or so later, however long, and they're going to run this git pull, and it's going to pull all those changes onto their computer. So now they're running the most current version of their computer. They've got all your changes that you've done without using a thumb drive to transfer files, without doing anything crazy. It's just a simple, you push your changes up to the cloud, they can pull them down. So how does that work in practice? We need to create a repository. So log into github.com, go to your main kind of user panel page, which is this, and let's do a new repository. It's right here. Click on that. I'm going to call this second project. Okay, I'm going to make it public. I'm going to not initialize it with we will initialize it with a readme, doesn't matter. Alright, and we are going to add a git ignore file. We're working a lot with Python, so we'll add that. Let's create that. So here's that readme. The readme text is going to be displayed here. So if you want some instructions to your teammates, throw them in the readme. Whoever views this repository, this is the first thing they're going to see. The git ignore is just going to ignore. Remember how we add and push changes up? It ignores certain files, and you'll see all these different files that it ignores. Mainly the big thing for us is it's going to ignore compiled Python files. Alright, so now how are we going to make this work with our directory? Well, I'm going to say git init. I'm in my manage.py, my project's root level directory, git init. This initializes this directory as a Git project, and you can see that right there. If you're curious exactly what that did, do an ls-a. You'll see that Git directory that it placed in there. Now I need to add a remote. So what is a remote? A remote is this link right here. So we have our computer, we have our GitHub repository, we need to link them together somehow, and a remote is how you do that. So I'm going to come up here to second project where it says clone or download. I'm going to copy this. My github.com username, the name of the repository, followed by .git. And come back to bash. I'm going to say git remote, add. We have to name it, so origin. It's just a technique, but most people use this origin as their remote name. And there we go. As long as you don't get any errors, you're good. So I can do a git remote -v, and that's going to show me my remotes. So when I fetch or I pull, it's going to that second project repository. When I push, it's also going to that second project directory. So now that we've linked it, the very first thing we want to do is pull. So I'm going to say git pull origin. That's the name of the remote. Master being the master branch. You really don't need to worry about this right now. Just go ahead and type that. Git pull origin master. Alright, so what did that do? Well, it unpacks some objects. You can see that it, you can read this if you want. But notice now, on my computer, I have that README. I didn't have that before, but now I have it. So let's do a git status. So now what's going on? Let me clear that screen and do git status again. Alright, these are untracked files. So we've made changes to these, but we haven't done this. We haven't added them to the staging area. So let's do that. So git add. I'm just going to use a period because that kind of adds everything in my current directory. On some terminals or operating systems, you can use a star, or you can manually type in the files and add them that way. But git add period. Now everything's going to be green. So changes to be committed. So all these changes are kind of hanging out. Where'd that go? They're kind of hanging out right here in my staging area. I need to commit them and then push them. So let's commit that. So git commit -m for message my first commit. And if you see this, it's probably your first time using Git here. So you just pretty much need to set your username and your user email and username, and that's mainly so this commit, when it's displayed in the repository, it can tell who uploaded it, what your name was. Git config. You can do this -- global, but I'm just going to set my user email and username for this individual repository, this individual directory. So I'm just going to say git config user.email and my email at gmail.com. Boom. And let's do git config user.name. That's, whatever name you want. I'll just put John. Alright, so we need to run this command again, this git commit. So git commit -m my first commit. Alright, so 8 files changed, 263 insertions, and now we're ready for the next step, which is push. So we got everything ready to go on our computer. Let's push this up to the cloud. So right now, if we refresh this GitHub repository, we have 2 files. Well, let's push it. So git push, the name of the remote, origin, and the branch, master. Enter your username for GitHub. And there we go. It wrote everything, writing objects. It did that total 12 to second project, or carpe praetum second project.git. Everything looks to be working well. And boom. All those files are up there now. So here's our ustudy, here's our settings.py. Alright. So now what I can do is, let's say I want to make some changes to, let's say I'm the front end CSS person and I want to go in here and I want to fix all these broken CSS files. Well, I can go and do that from my computer, push the changes up to the repository, and then when the backend person wants to come in here and create a new view, they get onto their system, into their workspace, and they do a git pull, and they pull all the updated material back to their computer. So they're working on the most current, most up-to-date version that is up here on the repository. We're going to see a lot more of that process here soon. So I know this is a little long video, but it's a lot of material to take in at once, the whole GitHub process, and I try to simplify it as much as I could. So we'll get more familiar with it here soon. Don't worry if it's a little, if it's kind of went over your head or it hasn't really sunk in yet. You'll get a lot more hands-on practice with that here soon.